Hi friends, my name is Angela and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to have a bit of a bookish catch-up. I was actually planning on doing some baking, but that never happened. I try not to bake when I'm by myself, so I need to try and do that when people are here, so I'm not eating it all myself. But today we're going to have a bit of a bookish catch-up. I'm going to share with you some of my recent reads, some things that have been going on, some plans for some decor, I guess, in our home. And I thought I'd bring you on the journey. It's been a beautiful autumn day here today, and I made for my dinner, I made a recipe out of this book by Julius Roberts, The Farm Table. I shared this with you back on my bedside table reads, and I just cooked this beautiful chicken, leek and tarragon pie, which I can't wait to dig into tonight. So it's the recipe is really cool because there's enough filling to make two pies. So I've got one for dinner tonight, and I'll probably have it for lunch or dinner tomorrow. And then I've got one in the freezer, and I thought future Angie's going to thank me for having one of these pies in the freezer for a late autumn cold evening, probably after having done some gardening or something like that. I tend to cook pretty simply during the week when it's just me and my husband. I used to do a little bit more elaborate cooking when I had kids in the house. But now during the week, I tend to do maybe like a piece of protein like chicken or lamb or beef occasionally, and just some steamed or roasted veggies. It's very simple. I don't have a problem with doing that because on the weekend, I like to experiment a little bit more. I like to try things out, maybe do a bit more slower cooking, whether it's a ragu for a pasta or a pie like this, or bake something to be able to take to a friend's or my mum's place. But this morning, as I was having breakfast, I was reading this book because it's broken into 4 seasons, and at the start of each season, there's 3 or 4 pages of just copy. And there was a phrase in here that I feel really exemplifies how I feel about autumn. And for Julius, this was him saying about how he feels that it is officially spring. I'd love to say it starts with the opening of a certain flower or the song of a bird, but for me it's always a change in the light that promises the shift into spring. It's a hopeful feeling that has been building for a while as the first pearl white snowdrops begin to appear in the shivering silver grass. I have to admit, when it comes to autumn, I feel exactly the same. The way the light changes around our house, like where there was a dark corridor in the afternoon, there is now just light gleaming through. And I used to be a photographer, and autumn was most definitely my favourite time to photograph. In Australia, it could be quite hot come the end of the day, but in autumn, the light was just so soft and really golden and just hung around for a long time come sunset. So I definitely feel the same. It's not so much the leaves falling off the tree or putting on a woolen jumper. It is the way the light changes that makes me feel it's officially autumn. So something I wanted to share with you was a few videos ago, I asked you if you were interested in knowing things about me other than books. And a lot of you said yes, like our lives shape who we are and what we tend to read. So getting to know a little bit more context about what's going on is always interesting. So I started to think about how I could do that without doing another video. And because I'm very happy with doing one video a week. I tend to do a couple of videos in a weekend, so I've got one in advance. It just works that way. When I have a free weekend or I've got the house to myself, I'll do that. So I tend not to spend too much time on social media these days. The algorithm is not my friend. I feel that I'm seeing things that I never wanted to see in the first place. I'm getting a lot of ads. I'm not seeing current things that I want to see from people that I do follow. The other day there was something that popped up from someone I follow, and it was a post from like 2017. It just drives me crazy. So social media, Instagram really isn't the place that I thought would fit. So I decided to kind of go back to my roots of blogging in a sense. I've resurrected a newsletter that I had, and I used to keep a newsletter when I was a photographer. And I really enjoyed that because it was a direct link from me to my audience, whether it was my friends or my clients. And I would teach about photography or talk about my life and what was going on. And so I thought that is the place that we are going to hang out. So I have started a Substack, and my plan is to do a weekly newsletter for free. There is no paywall required. This is free. But there will be some articles that will go up on the actual Substack Substack itself. But in general, it will be a weekly newsletter from me to you, and it will cover everything from something that's going on in my life, like maybe a few paragraphs of what's speaking to me, and then probably sharing what I'm reading or what I'm watching or listening to, a favorite thing, something I'm doing in the garden. So quite seasonal, always with the end goal of wanting to leave something beautiful in your inbox. And I really hope you'll join me. So please check out the link in the description to sign up to the Substack. Like I said, it's free. The weekly newsletter will probably come out a day or two after each YouTube video. And I hope you'll join me on that journey. Okay, so while I was convalescing from the surgery I had in early March, of course, you start to get itchy feet and you want to do the things that you can't. And I want to be out in the garden doing something, or I want to start moving lounges and start redecorating. So I started to think about what areas in my home I really, really wanted to get to this winter come spring. So there's a bit of a refresh. And we've been in our home now for about 12 years. I think we might be coming up to 13 years. And when we moved into this home, we had a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old, and so now we're technically empty nesters. So when I think about how we use our house at this point, it is very different to how we used it when we first moved in and first installed furniture. And so there's two rooms that I definitely want to kind of target soon. And one of those is like a bit of a study cum music room towards the front of the house. And the other is the library/media room that we have, which is where I tend to do a lot of my other recording. That's where the bookcase is behind me. It's a really cozy room. It's off our main living space, which is an open plan living area, but it does have doors that will close. And it was great when we had teenagers, because the teenagers could go in there and watch whatever they wanted and they would be out of the way. But now it's kind of it's definitely the TV we use the most, but it's also where I house all my books. Those are the only bookcases I have in that room, which is something I want to change, but that's what it is. So it's a reading area, it is a TV area, movies, that kind of thing. It's also, so when our grandson is over, that's where he watches his shows or plays. So we're not having all of his things out in the main living area because it's open plan. It can get quite messy quite quickly. So the first thing I want to do in this room is update the color. I think we were here for a couple of years before we finally did anything with that space, and eventually we painted it a dark teal blue and installed some cabinetry, just IKEA cabinets and some bookcases. And the intent was that the dark wall color would help the TV recede into the background, which is a really great experience when you're watching television. And it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb like in our other living area. We've got a TV against a white background. So there's this beautiful dual toned wall color at the moment, which I do like, but I'm ready for a change. And I think when I paint this time, I want to paint the cabinetry. So I feel like it seems to be quite an easy thing to do, to paint IKEA cabinetry, with a bit of primer. But I feel like doing that to help the bookcase then recede further in the background, give it a bit more personality, will be really interesting. And it is there is a large window in the room, but it faces south, and there's like no more than 1.5 meters away. There's a wall, there's a fence. So it doesn't get a lot of light. So that's why I went dark last time, to just kind of embrace that moodiness that's already in the room rather than fight it and keep it light and bright like the rest of our home. I'll try and share some images so you can kind of see where I'm going with this dark kind of feeling. So the colours that I'm gravitating towards are blues and greens, I think, just because the rest of our home kind of has those colours throughout. I'm trying to, it's a very neutral space that we have, and I do like that room has a bit of colour, and I think it can take it because of the moodiness of the room. In terms of structure, my plan is to keep everything as it is pretty much. I do want to change out the lounge for another lounge, but the structure will stay exactly the same. Some of the cabinets that we have house DVDs. There's like, I think there's maybe 6 drawers of DVDs, and we just don't watch them anymore. But we also, all the electrics in the cupboards, like the DVD players and things like that, we just don't use them as much now that we have a smart TV, and I can't see that we're going to continue to we're going to keep using a smart TV. We're probably not going to go backwards in technology in that sense. There's a lot of space that we can free up, which will be great. Because of the cabinetry above and below, I try and keep the heavier things at the bottom. So up the top, we've just got glassware and stuff. But I wish I could put books all the way around it, but I can't. So books are kind of just relegated to the sides and maybe down the bottom once I get rid of some of those electronics and DVDs that we just don't need to store. I think I'll also add some doors to, we've got 2 tall Billy bookcases flanking the couch. And I think I'll get maybe some doors for those just to streamline it a little bit more. To be honest, I don't put anything nice down low anyway. No books are really stored down low that I really, really love. It's becoming a bit of a catch-all and it's an eyesore. So I think some cupboards will help that. And then we'll replace the lounge. And I think it'll be a similar side lounge. I'm not sure if we'll do a modular or just keep the ottoman that we have in there and reupholster the ottoman into something else, because it works really well. We do have my reading chair in there. It's such a small room that chair I got is really narrow but long, so it fits really well. But it's a gold velvet at the moment. I found it on like Facebook Marketplace a couple of years ago, and I really like it. It's a comfortable chair because the seat is so long. So I think that will probably stay in there, and maybe that will be the inspiration for the color of what the lounge will be, or we'll get them all, get it reupholstered. I'm kind of in two minds about the lounge. I'm not sure if I want it to be a similar color to the walls. I've seen some really great inspiration where like maybe a wall is in a lighter French blue, and then the lounge is a much deeper, richer blue, like a velvet. And I thought, oh, that's really nice. But then there's the other side, which is a contrasting color, like a green wall with a gold velvet lounge or a copper lounge. Even I think I've seen a deep blue with a gold velvet lounge, and that just looks incredible. So I'm not sure if I want to do something contrasting or something matchy, so it just kind of all recedes into the background, but definitely a little bit darker. There was actually one image I came across, which was this incredible Merlot burgundy red throughout. The bookcases, the walls, the lounge were just this beautiful Merlot. And I thought, that's just gorgeous. But I think it's just too daring off, because it's right off our living space. But then I've seen other ones which were more of like a terracotta pinkish clay wall with a similar kind of lounge. So anyway, I need to figure out the color palette first, and then I can start to round it out from there. So color, something nice, greens, blues, mid-range, leaning towards dark. I don't know if I want it as dark as what it is now, but that's definitely the first thing I need to do. And then once we've got the color down and, maybe a new lounge, then I want to get a piece of artwork for the big wall behind it. We've got very high ceilings. I think they're 32 core ceilings. And so this can take a big piece of artwork. And I've always struggled with figuring, like, do I want to put a number of things on there or just one big piece on there? What do I put on there? So I'm thinking like maybe some sort of canvas of some sort, something that doesn't reflect the light, because it does have that big window. So I want something that absorbs the light. And also potentially a couple of sconces attached to the bookcases on either side of the lounge, because there is no source of light in there for reading. So that's why I read in that one chair, because there's only one lamp in there. And I mean, I can move the lamp up and down, but I don't want to be doing that all the time. So I think some sconces on the side would be really nice and cool. I'm really looking forward to doing this space. It's not going to be there's no structural differences really. We're talking about a lounge, the sconces, the painting, probably some new curtains of some sort, but that's about it. And then reupholstering the ottoman or getting a new coffee table. But yeah, I think that'd be a great space to be in. Should I go contrasting? Should I go blue, green? Should I go like tone on tone? I'm really interested to hear what you think. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that, and hopefully come winter, that'd be a great project for winter. Easter is traditionally, it's funny, Easter is like the painting weekend in Perth in particular, usually because we get rain over Easter weekend for some reason. So normally that 4-day weekend is when a lot of people do big painting projects. I don't think I'll do it this Easter, but definitely come probably May, maybe June. with the aim to get that room done by, early spring, late winter. But I'll bring you on the journey. I think it's going to start with some book culling. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, is to unhaul some books, I guess. Books that I've read and I read them and I'm happy with that, and I don't necessarily want to keep them. Other books that have been there for a long time that are just haunting me because I just don't want to pick them up. So I think I want to go through and do a bit of a cull first. And then once I've done that is when, hopefully by that time I've chosen a colour and can get the ball underway. But I definitely want to bring you on that journey. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some books that I'm reading at the moment. I've started to, I log all of my books through Storygraph, which I enjoy using that more than Goodreads lately. Neither app is exceptional, but I like Storygraph, the fact that it gives me much more of a breakdown for me to see the variety of what I'm reading. And it also allows me to choose the edition that I'm reading. If I'm on Goodreads, there's no distinction between editions, so page numbers change. It's just different. Whereas on Storygraph, I can choose the edition. If my edition isn't there, I can upload it and they verify it, and it's a much better experience for me. But anyway, I find lately that I usually have 3 or 4 books on the go at one time, and it's not a hard and fast rule, but it's definitely something I've been paying attention to. And they're usually a mix of genres and topics. And so what I've found is that lately I'll have a nonfiction, which is usually a memoir of some sort at the moment. Then I'll have a fiction of some sort. And then a devotional or spiritual book will be on the go. And then the fourth is a bit of a wild card. It could be like when I read a children's book recently. So it wasn't a novel, but it was a series of stories. So I tend to have 4 on the go, and I'm happy with that sweet spot, because I feel if I add a 5th, that's when I'm starting to get into territory of one of those books I'm already reading perhaps is something that I don't want to finish, or I don't have the stamina to finish. And so it probably should just be something that I don't finish. So I've kind of set that benchmark, I guess, or that line in the sand, that I'm trying not to bring in a 5th book unless I've finished something. And I'm trying to, if I want to let a book go, I'm trying to just let it go and not have to hound myself to read a book. But anyway, the first book that I want to share with you that I just cannot quit is Love Stories by Trent Dalton. So I've had this on the go since January, and I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying it. But it's 350 pages. I am not yet halfway through. And the problem with this book, I think, for me, is that when I'll read a story, and the story, they vary. Chapters vary from one chapter with every paragraph is a different subject, different love story. Others are like a 6 to 8 pages of an entire chapter, but on one story. So when I get to the end of it, I feel like sometimes I need some breathing room. It's almost like I've finished a whole story, a whole book, and I need some breathing room before I start the next one, which means this is taking a long time because I want to put it down and maybe pick it up a couple of days later. So I want to finish it though. I'm enjoying it. It is not a book that I want to stop reading. It's just taking a long time, and I think I just need to let go of that. It's not a big issue. That's my own hang up. It's really a bit of a trend I've seen with some not short stories, but non-fiction books that are a selection of stories. That doesn't make any sense. A non-fiction book that has a selection of stories through it, or it's just a progression. So I'm still reading Love Stories. I am enjoying it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'll get there soon enough. The next book that I've got on the go is Mildred Pierce by James M. Cain. This has been on my to be read list for quite a long time. I saw the limited series with Kate Winslet, and I just loved it. I really loved it. Everything from the costumes to the hair and makeup to the music to the set design, the dialect. I really, really loved it. And it's that era that I really do love. I'm also a big fan of old Hollywood, like golden age Hollywood. So I have watched the Joan Crawford movie, Mildred Pierce, and I did enjoy it, but I also know from a cultural perspective and from a historical perspective what that did for Joan Crawford's career. It was a real catalyst. It was a real watershed moment, I guess, for her career. And so there's a lot of background to the media surrounding the book. So I've wanted to read the book for a long time, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It feels really familiar. The limited series has done so well at adapting the book so far. I think I'm up to the part where Mildred is just had to reveal to her daughter that she's a waitress, and she's just got it into her mind that she maybe can run her own restaurant. And my gosh, Vida is a piece of work. Like haughty was a word I think in here used to describe her, and I think it's going to get worse. She may be one of the worst characters in literature, but I'm enjoying it. I really am glad that I finally picked this up, and absolutely will I rewatch the limited series again when I finish this, because it is so, so good. And I'm really enjoying the small details in here. So at the time when it was written, they probably were nothing. It was just part of the culture and how things were done. But I'm really finding it nostalgic. From a 2024 perspective, I'm really enjoying it. Little things like when she interviews for the housekeeper position with Mrs. Forrester, and Mrs. Forrester calls her Mildred instead of Mrs. Pierce, which etiquette would have decided she should have. But because she's already pigeonholed Mildred into the box of being a servant, she's called her by her Christian name. And I find that interesting, because Mildred was riled up by that. She did not like it. And anyway, those little things that probably didn't mean anything at the time, I appreciate, and I'm finding a lot of nostalgia in that. So I've got that on the go. I think that's probably the one I'm going to finish next. But I've picked this one up again. This is The God of the Garden by Andrew Peterson. It is a memoir. It's a memoir about creation, about culture. I'm about a third of the way through, I think, pretty close. But it's something that I think is it's a slow burn, where I know the tone and I think I know the message, and then there'll be like this huge drop of revelation for me. And so I think the further I go into this book, the more I'll experience that. It's like there's been a lot of establishing information about the author's life, about his connection to nature. And now we're really getting to the crux of the story and the revelations in his own life. I read a chapter today, and this is an example, I read a chapter today which was about the author's parents who had bought a property in their later years. And so up until that point, they were pastors, or his dad was a pastor, and so they had a parsonage, and so they didn't own the property that they lived on. And so when they were retired, they bought a block of, property which had trees and orchards and all the rest of it, and they essentially turned it into like this camp for their grandchildren, where they could teach them fishing and crafts and all those sort of things that you'd probably learn at a camp. And it just kind of got into the fact that the land is now etched with the imprints of the grandparents and the grandkids. They've made an imprint on the land. And then the author goes into his thought process of what will happen once his parents are no longer able to take care of the land. And that was an interesting moment for me. So I wanted to share it with you, because it's the author's saying, like he and his siblings are scattered across the country. They're not going to be able to pick up where his parents have left off. But so this was the statement. No one's in a position to drop everything and pick up where mum and dad left off. But that doesn't stop them. The lushness of the place is fleeting and all the more precious for it. How marvellous it is to work to sustain the beauty of something, even when you suspect, with good reason, that its beauty will fade as soon as you take your hand from the plough. But there's good reason to believe our delights will delight those who come after. And that just kind of really spoke to me. As a gardener, there's a saying for gardeners that to garden is to believe in tomorrow. There's nothing more hopeful than planting a seed and having hope that will sprout. And I think I never really thought about the efforts that I go to here on our block of land, and the things that I am doing and who will come after. That just kind of really spoke to me. That you create your own Eden, I guess, and it's either abandoned. Once you're gone, it's either abandoned, it's amended, or it's continued. And I don't know. It just really stuck with me. So that's enough reason for me to continue on with this book. There are little moments like that come out, and the gardening metaphors are really, I'm enjoying it. So that was a rather deep ending for me to end on, but thank you for joining me. Those are the books that I currently have on the go. And I hope you enjoyed this video, this little bookish catch up. Next time, I promise I will bake something for us to enjoy. I'm excited to bring you on the journey for our renovating, I guess, our decorating for that new space that I'm going to be enjoying, I'm sure. Don't forget to sign up to the Substack newsletter in the description. I'd really love for you to join me there. And I hope you have a lovely weekend ahead and are enjoying whatever season you are in.